Welcome back. Should underage kids in Maryland be allowed to drink in their home? How about under the supervision of an adult? A new bill is in the works that would allow stiff fines and jail time for Marylanders who allow underage drinking at parties on their properties. Henry, what say you about this new legislation?
Well, having been a parent of teenagers, sometimes things are just a little more challenging than what they appear on paper. My daughter threw a party when we weren't in town, so obviously I couldn't endorse what was going on. Here, the parents were actually present. And what we're talking about is Alvin and Calvin's Law. It's named after two teenagers that were riding in the back seat of a vehicle that was driven by someone who was underage, drinking, and he blew a .09 and also had drugs in his system. So they were at the party. There was parents present. They didn't provide the alcohol from what I read, but they knew that alcohol was present and the kids were partaking of the alcohol. There's questions there. You know, are our laws within the United States towards drinking not as enlightened as maybe France, where they don't have as much of a drinking problem, and they sort of temper the drink as the child gets older? They'll water down the wine at a young age and allow them to partake a little bit more. Or are we getting more of a recoil thing like we see when kids go off to college and they're still underage and they go out binge drinking? Yeah. So there's a little bit of an issue here of what we're talking about. But we're dealing really with this law. And the law is saying we're going to throw prison time if we think it's necessary in addition to the $2,500 fine. So prison time, if they're providing the alcohol and knowingly doing it, I think that's really a harsh thing to hand off. But loss of life, of course, is the ultimate sacrifice. So how do we balance that? Jim?
Well, you know, from my perspective, I just don't see a time in my kid's future when I'm going to support an underage drinking party in my house.
Right.
I'm sorry about that. Now, having said that, I'm also going to tell them if you're out and you have been drinking, whether you're 28, 58, or 16, call me, I'll come get you.
Right.
So, you know, I think we need to be honest with our kids starting at a very early age. I think that as parents, it is incumbent upon us to teach them to follow the laws. And I think that in some respects, this may be a knee-jerk reaction to a tragic accident.
Right. Well, and you know, and I've found that, you know, anytime you have a law that is named after a victim of some tragedy, typically that law is a knee-jerk reaction, and typically it is going to be an overreaction. And, you know, laws based, you know, passed based upon emotion are usually bad laws.
And there's a law in the books right now for that, but there is no jail time.
Right.
There's just a fine. But I think if you're the homeowner and you're allowing your kids to have a party, you're responsible.
Absolutely.
You're liability for that. I mean, if a kid goes out and gets killed, you know, you're going to face the consequences. And I think, you know, jail time, yes, there's got to be some kind of time. You got to be punished. So, you know, whether it's not to fine the person $5,000 for the first offense and 1 year jail time, second offense is 2 years in jail and $7,500 fine. Is that going to be enough to satisfy?
But what if you're not there? What if you're Henry House and you're not there?
Well, there might be a different story, but you're going to have to provide proof. Say you're in the Bahamas somewhere.
I had a hotel receipt from Virginia Beach. Okay, but you know the question is, and like you, Jim, with my kids, I had a no questions asked policy. If you were out and you did something that you knew we wouldn't approve of and could risk your life and limb, you pick up the phone, you call mom or dad, and we come pick you up. No questions asked.
That was in my household.
Yeah. Because if they didn't, picking up the phone and calling is the bravest act that they can do.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, you know, that's the first thing. But they knew that something was going on. Jail time really, to me, would be a really stiff penalty because we have laws on the books. But where I really am concerned with, because this wasn't a first time that happened at this house.
No.
It was an ongoing thing, and the police even knew that it was an ongoing activity there. So
See, that's problematic.
If
that
the
is
police are
problematic.
allowed
Right.
it, then of course they should have stepped in and stopped that a long time
But
ago.
but you know, the problem is the law going to be written with that kind of clarity, or is this going to be one of those where Henry owns a property? He was in Virginia Beach, but it doesn't matter. It was an underage drinking on his property, so he goes to jail. That to me is analogous to locking up the gun manufacturers when somebody gets
Right.
killed with a pistol.
But
Yeah.
see, from my previous career, I worked for a beer distributor. Okay, so my name was on the beer license for the company. And it would really look bad as being a beer distributor and having one of your children or your house rated for underage drinking.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always try to go to the next level. And that's the way we approach our kids. And
Right.
I think my kids grew up and they're responsible about what they partake in.
Nothing in my past history, but when I was in high school, I could remember going to parties with parents being in the house.
Yeah.
They kept it calm. Back in the day, everything was calm and nobody got out of hand. But
Yeah.
today, you know, you leave your house. It happened to us. You know, you leave and one of your kids have a party.
Yeah.
And now you get people in your house you don't even know and they're drinking and
Well, it's like the old Breck commercial. They call two friends, and they call two friends, and so on and so on.
Yes.
And all of a
Right.
sudden, there was 100 people in my house.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, fortunately, my neighbor told me, and anyway, that's another story. But with this situation, how do we approach it? You know, fines, police time. You know, serving time in jail. Serving time in jail means they're going to lose their career if they. You know,
Right.
I presume they're going to have a career. This is not necessarily the most positive reaction. And, you know, yes, it's tragic because we have a loss of life. But it's no different than if they were legally, if they were above 21 and they went out and they were involved in an accident, things do happen.
I can agree and
You know.
disagree with the jail time because if no loss of life and the kids got pulled over for drinking and driving, okay, smack with the wrist, here's a small fine. But if the loss of life, something has to be done. No more than pulling a trigger on somebody and intentionally murdering somebody.
Well, you know, let me say this. Maybe we're just going about this completely wrong. Okay? Because here in this country, you have to be 21 to drink.
Right.
You only have to be like 17 to join the army. Okay, so you can fight for your country, you know, several years before you're allowed to drink.
And I've heard that argument for ever
All
since
right.
they
Yeah.
changed their drinking
But
age.
let's
back in
take this one step
1982.
further, though. All right, European countries. All right, France. Drinking is not taboo there for under 21 like
Neither
it
is
is
Germany.
here.
Right.
Okay. What if we lower the drinking age? What if we lower it that it's not taboo anymore?
To what?
Go back to the early 80s when it was 2.5 alcohol for
Well,
beer.
West Virginia had 2.2 beer, and Maryland had, you know, full strength.
But what age did, I mean, it used
Yeah,
to be
I-
18 in
I
Maryland.
don't know the perfect answer.
And you know what? I
Yeah.
got to tell you something. When it was 18 in Maryland, I was drinking at 17 or 16. I
But
can't
at
remember
the
when.
age 18, we do have kids who might attend school that were out last night drinking beer.
Yeah.
So that may not be.
Oh, I'm sure
ideal
we probably
solution.
still have kids
Well,
that
we
are,
do.
you know,
We
in
do.
high school drinking beer.
Okay.
So,
But I mean, we also look. This kid who caused the accident had drugs in his system also. I doubt if the parents in the house
Knew
provided
about
the drugs.
that, right?
right.
Okay.
And what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the drugs cause him to, you know,
Speed.
was
We
it a
have-
combination? Was it the speed? Parents had nothing to do with the speed.
Right, and you know, Maryland's not a tort state, so we don't have contributory negligence on the parents' part, even though they knew something was taking place. It's very difficult to hold them accountable.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, and you know, I think you're going to have the last word on that, Henry. So, up next, what's next for the national candidates? Are we soon down to 2-2?